Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you please join me in the pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everybody here again. If your telephones are not necessary for emergency use, I would hope you put them in airplane mode. And welcome everybody here. We don't have an appointment, but we do have to start with us to do a presentation with each other on the budget. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it section by section, and if there is comments to be made, and then we will address it. If there's nothing to address, we'll move on. In the areas that we need to have addressed by questions or what have you, that individual will ask that of the department head or of the department head's designate. It's not in all cases the department head's here. So does anybody have any questions before we start on that? All right. And we're on. The first item on the budget is executive. Does anybody have any discussion on the board for this?
I had a comment. One of the original items John had gone through was he had talked about grades and steps and adding a new grade was something we had talked about. We talked about increasing people within their grades or steps, but if there was not a new grade, we were not going to add a new step to the top of it. We were looking at the longevity bonus.
Just don't call it a longevity bonus.
You're right, sorry, that's not the right term.
It's a top of scale.
Top of scale bonus.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that was taken out as part of the three-digit.
And how is that caught in here to reflect appropriately?
Basically, there wasn't a whole lot of change. What changed is that it won't happen in the future year because the way you were doing it, you were given what amounted to a top step, half in April and half in October.
Right.
And I had calculated it in that way, but when you wanted it not as a step, it really didn't affect the bonus part of it.
Right.
It affected the future next year's when it will
It
affect.
doesn't create like a next step moving
For
forward.
2020 is when it doesn't create a 4 underneath it.
Because those payments were not eligible for benefit calculations as well.
Those payments by law have to be counted towards overtime because they're guaranteed. So there is a slight bump in overtime, but it's real small that you have to do. But you have to take Social Security, you have to take retirement. It does calculate towards your workers' comp. That dollar number, whatever you pay them, does count towards a lot of your benefits.
If we look back over the actual meeting where that took place, that was not made clear. Specifically why we approached it the way we did.
I thought the main reason that you wanted it that way was so that it would be affecting the 2020 and beyond budget for additional steps.
That's definitely a component to it. What are you, I'm just trying to make sure I understand what you're going.
When we discussed the two payments taking place at 2 stages within a year, that of the savings of that was not increasing base rates of pay that would affect benefits.
Right. I agree.
So if
I don't know how you do that. It will affect benefits.
that should have been brought up at the time that the
I didn't
proposal
realize that. Sorry.
I mean, it was very specific when we talked about it, John, that was part of why we were approaching the table the way we were.
I'm sorry. I just needed to.
I had two items here I'd like to address with Andy. One of them is a line number 4540, executive advertising. They've shown that it has budgeted for $900, but nothing has been expended out of the account, so I'd like to make a recommendation that we reduce that either by $200 or $300, whichever the board's pleasure is on that.
I had actually written down to be reduced at $600 to $300.
The big number on that is going to occur this month when we have to put the advertisement in for the town meeting and all of that information that has to be posted for the town meeting, but it could be certainly cut in half based on we haven't spent much on advertising yet. We were able to, for example, on personnel, I found advertising electronically was far better than putting it in the newspaper, so that we found other ways of advertising, but by law we have to put a fairly extensive ad in the newspaper, and I know for planning board you run, if I can ask Marcia, I believe, what does an ad run now for your
At one time when we did, I remember at one time that the advertisement for the zoning amendments, this was a while ago, was actually over $600. And right now, our ads we put in just for our public hearings, for our applications, are quite expensive. And I look at what we spent in 2017, we only expended that line by $264. You actually spent $964 last year. So I would be concerned that it's illegal to cut that line.
I think we have to be careful because it is, the biggest expenditure is the one that's coming up soon. But, I mean, you certainly could cut $300 to $400 without
What's the consensus?
Well, I haven't done that, we haven't asked you. So we have 600, we had a 200, now we have a recommendation from department head to just take 300 out of it. So what would the board like to do?
I'm good with 3 or 4.
Yes.
So somebody want to just give me a
Or not
price?
even number 4 then.
I mean, we do also have the executive incentive fund that we leave there as a kind of a catch-all in case we do run over a bit.
So he's going to take four.
You want to take 4 or 300?
4.
Consensus, the board take 4? Opposed, however, take $400 out of that, make note. The other item I wanted was,
it's now 500, correct?
yeah, that's correct.
So, okay.
Thank you. The other item I want to bring up is executive conferences and training. Or bring up conferences and training for all departments. And it's not to change the budget at all this year, please understand that. I'm asking to gather the data this year and present it for next year's budget. What I'm asking is, if we use mileage money for conferences or for training, that they keep track of it and put it into a note that we will know where it goes for next year, so we will have the conference and mileage in one section, and we'll have the operating mileage necessary for the department to go in a separate, stay in the same one that it's in. Dan?
Well, that's one of my questions is, I thought that was kind of heavy on the conference and training. I don't know what.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about. Okay, I'll go back to that in a minute, but how do you feel about doing that? Keeping the mileage for conferences and training separate from the regular mileage necessary for the conduct of business?
I like that, because then my other question is,
Yeah.
I see my SM mileage and executive mileage, 100, and then I see 600.
Basically, if you look at the third series of numbers, which is a 2-digit number, either 01, 02, or 09. 01 means it's for elected officials, so that mileage is for elected officials, and it would apply to you as selectmen if you put in for mileage. The 02 applies to the town administrator and the deputy town administrator, and the mileage in the 02, 4580, is for mileage that I put on So that's what the difference of those two mileage lines are. The conference line, if you look at expenditure historically on that, it's been light in part because of the way in which I've been able to get inexpensive training for myself, because first of all, as a retiree, the cost of the annual convention is way lower than what it would otherwise be. I get free to the Municipal Association annual meeting because I'm on the board. As you know, in the past, I got free conferences because of Primex. They were paying the cost of it. So as I look at this number, it was built to try to make sure Connor could get to the trainings which I've been able to go to, but he won't have someone else paying part of the bill or be able to get the discount as a senior. Your hair's too black.
Dan, you have a question?
I'd like to cut the selectmen's $100.
I would support that.
So not,
I have
All
another.
opposed?
You take it out and
Yeah.
zero?
All opposed?
make it zero.
Zero it out, John.
Yep.
And I have another one. On the executive salary. Can you explain that?
It was requested that I put in an amount so that the selectmen would start receiving a salary, a stipend, it should be called, going forward. And that 4,500 was the...
No, this is 40 grand.
Executive salary.
Oh, you're talking on an O2 line. Okay, there are three lines there in a row. There is executive salary, there's TA full-time hourly, and there's TA part-time hourly. How that works out is when Connor takes over for me, it will be a salary position, so that's for the balance of the year for Connor after I retire. The next line is full-time hourly, that's for Connor until I retire because he is full-time hourly. The next line is part-time hourly, that is for me on a part-time basis for the first 22 weeks, and then some time built in, a couple hundred hours as I remember built in because I've offered to consult, and it would be on an as-needed basis. So that's what those three lines are.
Thank you for the understanding.
Is there any question, please?
So, since we started with line 413001, 4110, the select person salaries, can we zero that out?
I will second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Yeah, you want to cut it, I mean, I assume to cut it to $1, we usually get $1, keep the line open, so you're cutting it $4,499. Is that correct?
Yep. Any other discussion for executive? Saying no, we'll move on to elect, I'm sorry.
I just, question John on the part-time hourly there. Is that, to me, that, I'm trying to think, your contract was up in May,
Yeah, and then
you've got 200 hours budgeted in for,
the rest of the year. There might be some left, because I'm planning on going on vacation the first part of the year, so there might be a few more hours left there.
okay, it seemed a little fat for me.
200 hours?
Well, just in total, when I look at it, like, so if I look at you, through your contract term and then is, like, even with a slush fund, I think there was almost like 18,000 in like excess money in there, if I remember correctly. I don't,
My annual right now is 80,000.
Right.
And this is less than, so half of that would have been 40.
right.
So, it's, yeah, I mean, you could cut some, I mean, it's up to you how much hours, I mean, you could use the incident fund, it depends, Connor is learning really fast, so you may not need me that much.
Yeah, because through 4 months, even if we went 5, we're looking at 32.
I'll throw you through 5 months, but yeah.
That's what I said, through 5 is
Yeah.
42.
Yep.
Or 32. So at 48, I mean, we're,
No, it's at 38.
40.
Oh, yeah, 48, yeah, 48, yeah, 48, yeah. So, yeah, you could cut 8,000 if you wanted to, I mean, it's up to you as a board.
That's my favorite number, yes.
I'm 8,000, 8,000, what do you guys do with?
I think it's an appropriate number.
Yeah, it's up to what, how, I mean, it's gonna be on an as-needed basis, and that's all, so, you know, it's, Just don't call me so much.
Any further discussion on the executive budget?
So is that drop, that was a total of,
You're cutting it 8,000 to drop it to...
40,808.
oh, okay.
Tracy?
Is it at all possible with line item 413002, 4580, since Connor likely will not be quite as active in all of the associations as you currently are, John, that we dropped that 600 to 400 on the mileage?
Well, we'll both be using mileage for 5 of those months, but yeah, it could be. We are, I mean, yeah, we'll drop it a couple hundred if you want to.
But we're a full year in and we're at 470, so.
So I'd like to drop it to 400 if we could.
We're at 470 right now.
But we've got 2 people using it.
I understand that.
Partway through the year.
And John is much more active in the associations that are tied to the whole than
All right, so we have
I have
a,
free time for, so.
4580, want to drop that down
To 400.
to 400? Anybody opposed? Seeing none, we'll carry over, so let's go to 400, John?
Yep.
Again, I'll ask again, any other items from executive?
Yes,
Tracy?
under 413009, 4532, it appears that 4,000 is an overestimation of what would be required for web and cable, and I'm curious if we've approached Atlantic Broadband for a 24-month contract at discount.
I mean, if you wanted to cut some off there, you could.
So I was thinking, taking it down to 3,500.
Yeah, because that's what we've spent so far to date, and I'm not aware of any other expenditure coming in, so.
Anybody opposed to that? I see that there, and then the web and cable go to 3,500.
So you're cutting 500 to end up at 3,500.
That's correct. That's what was asked extra for to go into it. Dan, you have something?
Yeah, on the essential fund, can we revisit that maybe, and how that goes?
What number is that, please?
4810.
Yeah, 4810.
How do you mean revisit it?
And then after the old meeting, you see that number is right?
So we spent 62.
Yeah, we spent 62 this year, we still have the rest of the year to go.
Well, that's.
But it's this year.
We're almost the end of the year.
Yeah, it's not 2 weeks.
It will.
I might want to increase it.
Yep. And what do we have, I'm trying to,
I wanna-
this year, I'm trying to think what are the big hitters in there.
Wait a minute, no, we took that out of the other one, didn't we? There was something in there that I'll have to get you
Yeah,
that
there
answer.
were a
Something
couple
else
of-
that wasn't you.
Was it the technology piece, the technology contract, or?
You know, there wasn't a contract, it was something we bought, Office 365.
Right,
Over half of it.
right. And that was something we had planned for, but also.
That Friday bill into it?
What also.
That Friday, town hall Friday?
Oh, connecting the fiber.
Yeah.
Yes, connecting the, so there was a lot of technology stuff this year.
So my thought on that is we're not anticipating going that heavy this coming year. What would we be, are we comfortable taking some
John?
of?
The printer?
And the printer? $11,000
Yeah,
for the plotter?
Yeah, that was all technology related, technology, fiber, and Office 365.
So that's a big chunk of that money, right?
That's over 50,000 right there.
Right. How would you folks feel about cutting that back by 20?
I would like to, yes, how do you feel about?
My question was, I want to revisit this at the end. This is one line item. Because if we're gonna be taking stuff out of everything, instead of going to DIA, we can have this for money, cover these little $100, the pennies add up.
They do, the only thing is,
We have to stay in line, we're doing,
I think we're gonna revisit this later on, it's one line item.
no, we're going right through the budget, because once we get through this, we have to get it printed out else and go through, we're not gonna have another meeting. Our next meeting, we will present this to the public, and the public will have their comments on this meeting there.
I'm done on this meeting, we can't go back and revisit this one line.
Well, that's why we're here, let's visit while we're here. We don't want, I really don't want us to stay past midnight, and if we can visit now and get it out of the way, let's do it. So what is your wish on it?
I'm gonna stay neutral on this.
My thought is knowing where we've spent, we've been allocating our money this year, I would feel comfortable taking a portion of it, but definitely not quite half. It's 20,000 or about 68% or so.
I actually would agree with that. If we know where we're going with personnel issues, we tackle a large portion of technology issues. It would certainly still be a buffer should it be needed, but certainly, in my mind, is a better approach to being fiscally responsible.
I definitely expect some work from the technology end of it as we really start moving the town forward there, like knowing we're not buying Office 365 and knowing we're not buying another plotter. And we don't have to connect fiber.
I would assume if there was something like that, we'd be talking about it.
Absolutely.
Planning for it.
Right now, over the past years, that we would be safe if we went to $25,000 to $30,000. Because over the past years, we got 18, 7, 11, 1 year for 20, and one other year that came out for 41. So I think that, at 20 to 25, we would be able to handle it.
Can I make a case for leaving it where it is, and that has the word phone? We do not have to purchase phones in this budget, and that right there, we were estimating could be $30,000 or some such number, so we don't know what the phones are, so I think that's a big item.
Would we propose buying phones until we know what we're constructing?
Yes, that's the technology plan is to get away from renting phones with the current company and go to the Office 365. That was one of the steps that the tech company wanted to do.
So why didn't you put that under expenses?
Well, because it isn't developed along the plan, but that's something that you're going to tie the technology committee's hands, they can't go that route. You don't.
Well, right, but that's why I say, even if we cut it back to only taking 10,000 out of it, we're taking a pretty significant chunk in there, and from the technology end, it was more imperative to get through the critical report that they were doing and figure out what deficiencies we had to, the phones may have to be put off a year to focus on the priorities of making sure other items are addressed.
We're addressing a lot of hardware security issues.
Right.
So what would you like to reduce it to? You want to take it just down 25, you want to take it down 20? You want to go to 45?
I said 10.
Well, I said 20 first, and I said if need be 10, but between 10 and 20, I'm comfortable.
Let's go to 15, I recommend we remove 15,000. Discussion? All right, so we'll put that to 50.
50,000.
Again, do we have anything else in executive?
I just had a question on the memorial.
Sunflowers for people that
Illness.
plaques, if somebody was getting up in the ward, those kinds of things. Donation in memory of all the flowers.
Any further question? Seeing none, we'll move to elections. Any questions on the elections, please?
Town clerk, maintenance, about that. Okay, we have budgeted that for 5. Okay, I'm good with that. And then 4112, which is election wages. There we go. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure I find it on the live sheet that I'm working on. There we go.
It's an 03 for the two-digit differentiates.
Okay. And we had, we spent $9,000 with 3 elections this year, with primaries and 2 a midterm election and a regular election. Is it reasonable to cut that to $5,000, knowing we only have one election this coming year?
Are we still on 12?
We have a lot of cleanup still to do. And we haven't put in our, money from, the last election. And we're gonna be,
Yeah, supervisor on the checklist should be.
yeah.
Just as a reminder to everyone here, most of us put in some time there to save the cost going to this line item, so we perform the function that would normally be paid for. So that's five of us did on that, just as a reminder. I'm not speaking either way to increase or decrease. Just,
What number again?
41,
It's,
03-41-12.
4140-03-4112.
You're gonna take 2 out and make it 5, is that what you suggested?
That was my suggestion. I don't know how everyone else feels.
I'll go along with that.
I think we should leave it in there. Because if we don't work the next election, then bodies will have, somebody have to do
We
it.
have to be there anyway.
You don't have to work, but I'm not gonna go in that discussion with you again. Does anybody else have a comment? Tracy, I see you wanting to ask something. Do you have something?
I have three line items, Chairperson Bailey, that I'd like to consider. One of them is 014612, dropping at 1,555,000.
Could we finish on whether, is there consensus on, so far I've heard 2 in favor and 1 against dropping the 7,000 to 5,000, so I think we need a motion and vote.
I thought we already dropped that in part of the presentations.
I think she said she cut it to 7, because of the number of elections, but Andy's point is it could go lower. Potentially,
What we spent,
Everything can potentially go lower.
in 2017, we had one election and we spent $27.94.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
And then the year before that, we had 4206. Remaining, so that
I mean,
shows
although we have these spikes during heavy election years, but in non-election years, we don't.
So you're proposing to drop it to 5 or 4?
5.
So only take 2,000?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, the vote will be to take $2,000 out there. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, yes.
Because, as you say, with the bouncing in 2016 with the presidential primary, the 4 elections, it was 18,000.
Yeah, it was a big one, I remember.
Yeah.
That was being huge.
Selectman Hancock, you had some ones you like to cover, put it under elections.
So 014612 postage, based on 2017 expenditures in 2018, dropping that from 6,500 to 5,000, a reduction of 1,500.
Pass an action to table go to 6,500. Is there any other further discussion? From 6,500 go to 5,000. Is anybody opposed?
We're actually going over 5,000 this year. We're already at 4,625. And we haven't finished the year out, so 5,000, I think you cut it close.
That's $375 left for next year.
Yeah, once you spend over 5,000. Once a year, right. In about 3 weeks, but.
Right.
But we haven't done the billing for the postage machine yet, for, the postage machine, the billing gets transferred. We have to, when?
Quarterly.
Quarterly.
Or monthly,
So we haven't
monthly.
done yet, So, I mean, I think cutting it 5, you're pretty likely to overspend it, because you did 2 years ago, last year, and this year you've already spent 46 out of the 5,000.
Does anybody want to change that figure? Selectman Hancock, would you like to change that figure?
I think select person Air has suggested going to 5,500 for safety, not that I've agreed with that.
All
So a
right,
reduction of 1,000 to a figure of 5,500.
all those opposed? Seeing none, carried.
Okay?
Selectman Hancock, have another, please?
Under office supplies, I have no idea, based on, an average of the 2 prior years' expenditures on office supplies, my suggestion was a reduction of $900 to $2,000.
Sorry, which one?
I'm sorry, 014611.
So you're taking out 900 to drop it to 2,000.
Correct.
This one,
Reduction of 900 to 2,000.
All right, we have reduction 900. Any further discussion on that 900? Seeing none, all those in favor of reducing that line item by $900, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion okay. Can I have another one, please?
Conferences and training. I was curious why we're jumping that to 3,200.
She's splitting to add an extra, she's training a new person, hiring
Okay.
a new person to
Okay.
put in there.
Understood.
Do you have any more?
No.
Does anybody else have anything else for elections?
Town maintenance, we didn't have anything, the town clerk maintenance, we didn't have anything expended. Okay, we reduced it to 500, never mind, already there.
Yes, we already reduced it. The ABC recommended they adopt.
Oh, yeah, that was
last week.
before, okay. Turn the page.
That's it. Is there anything else to go with elections?
034432. A reduction of 200 to 650.
Equipment maintenance?
Yes.
That must be the voting machine?
Yes. 034432, right?
034432.
Yeah.
Reduction of $200 to $650.
I'll second that.
Still appears that some of you put a $200 buffer on the past 2 years.
There's a recommendation made to take $200 off the line. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Everything else? Does anybody else have any other items for the election portion, please? Seeing none, I'll move on. Next one is financial administration. Do we have any comments on financial administration? I have the same comment that goes, as I said at the beginning, for housekeeping, which is to take care of conferences and training. Dan, you had your hand up.
014310, an increase of $19,000. Well, I know, I'm having a problem with the 2 part-time to a full-time. Does that come out of here?
What's happening here is the Office 365 is an annual cost. The first year came out of the incident fund, future years are budgeted in here for the annual cost of Office 365.
In admin contracts.
Admin contracts. And there's some other stuff that got absorbed, some savings we made, so it's not the full 33, but that's where it's going.
So 365, that's where it's going.
The Office 365 is going into the 143.
Does anybody else have anything else in financial administration? Tracy?
014434, the equipment maintenance at $10,000. looks like year-to-date expended for 2018 is just $4673. What are we anticipating that would require a $10,000 budget line item?
This is some of that technology equipment that we might end up buying as we go forward. We're not quite sure exactly what we're going to, originally we were thinking of as far as server storage, but at this point, we're not quite sure what it's going to be. So it's really up to the tech committee what they want to do for maintenance beyond, you need to have money in there for a couple of computers and printer or two, but that's probably the 5,000, and then the additional 5,000 is we were planning for office, for part of that account that we're getting from our technology plan that's coming in.
How does that work, Andy, please?
Well, I think from the technology, most of that, well, we're on track for it, and we also are factoring in potentially with the incident fund if need be. I wouldn't say reducing it by 5, but I think you could probably cut it by 2 and be comfortable.
I'll go on too.
What's your thought, Tracy?
I don't really know enough about what technology is planned. I was just looking at the prior to the budget for 2017 and the amount expended in 2018 and thought it seemed very high, so.
Well, I can tell
think
you,
2 is reasonable and still
Then how-
always a significant amount for additional.
If we did reduce it by 5,000, I'm sure we can find the other $5,000 amongst what we had to take care of private technology, if it does come through.
Now, this gets back to what Ann mentioned earlier, is you can't keep saying you're going to take everything out of the incident fund.
Right.
You cut the incident. $6,000 is my understanding on what the Wi-Fi piece was going to cost that we're talking about for the various buildings. I mean, you're looking at some significant expenditures, and if you take it out here, you won't have that money for that Wi-Fi.
I mean, potentially, but that's where following the technology plan will drive and dictate decisions that we make throughout the year and where we focus our efforts.
But if you don't put the money in here, that will constrain your decision making.
It may slow stuff down, but that also drives the intention to have a good plan.
Right.
And actually set what the plan is to get us there, not just on a whim, come here before the board and say, hey, we want to go do this now because we're ready.
But wasn't the Wi-Fi something that the tech committee was supporting?
It was definitely something that was being worked at,
And if you don't put money in the budget, you won't be able to do that unless you start spending the incident fund, and you're going to likely do something like that, you want to put the money in the budget.
right? What did we spend the $4,600 on again?
I'd have to look up. Yeah, I'd have to look up what it was we spent on.
I mean, leaving $8,000 gives you the $6,000 if you were going to do it, and you're not going to do the whole area all in one shot. You're going to look at your zones and selectively figure out where you want centralized Wi-Fi.
But if you take 6 towards the Wi-Fi, you have very little, and you only put 8 in there, you haven't got much left if you have to replace computers or if there's something else that the tech committee comes up with. I mean, this is something, as it's a work in progress, we know we need to upgrade our IT stuff. You should be budgeting to upgrade the IT.
I think what Andy's saying, and that I agree with, is you should have the plan in place and be designing your budget around the plan, not the budget in place and then deciding what you're doing.
As long as you're not in a hurry to implement the plan, that's the way you're doing it.
What effect is this going to have on our phone system?
The phone system still is to be ferreted out, and I think looking at what we spent last year and where we took it from, we would more than adequately have funds to cover a phone system if we wanted to do it. Plus, it eliminates the cost of the phone system, so we only pay that 1 year, and then after that, that money goes away. Because right now, we spend $35 grand a year on a phone system. We're looking at spending $35 grand to buy the equipment for the voice over phone system through Office 365, which is a one-time expense, and then that goes away after that.
Is that $35,000 include the maintenance?
It's all handled as part of that internally with the technology committee and our maintenance
Office
contract,
365.
our Office 365, and our maintenance contract with The technology company will then provide support on that
So
system.
there won't be an increase if you put this in with maintenance?
No.
Okay.
And it'd be a $5,000 reduction from what Andy just said. On the $35,000 that you're paying to rent, you're going to $30,000 to buy, and then you're going voice over internet service.
Right, but 1 year, you're gonna have a double payment, because you get out of the contract in May, because that's when the contract comes up, so you're gonna have to pay into it for 5 months, and then buy the phone, so you've got, 5/12 of the 33, you're going to be paying in addition to the 35. I'm just saying that what we're doing is complying with, what?
Because we agreed to a contract that requires a 5-month notice of buyout on the.
It's an annual contract that doesn't expire until May, so when it expires in May, you would have paid in 5 months' worth of payment. You then pay to buy the phone, so you paid the 35 for the phones, plus 5 months of the rental on the phones.
So in this scenario, we're gonna use 35 that's already planned in the budget and another 15 to go and pay for the 5 months, not even 15, you're gonna use about 12.
So why don't we consider reducing this to 7,500?
They're just saying you're not making a technology.
You said 8,000?
Yeah, reduced by 2, which should be.
Dan?
I'll go with 8.
Tracy? Comments, please?
Yeah, I think that 8 seems reasonable.
All those in favor of 8, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so that goes to 8. Any other comments on the financial administration? Tracy, any more left?
Yeah, 014550, the printing,
I get the same.
proposed reduction to 3,000 from 4,000, a $1,000 reduction.
Oh, we had a reduction of 1,000 up. Any other comments on it?
Can I?
John?
We had expenditures in the past 2 years.
I'm still making sure I get everything right on the last one. So 4434, equipment maintenance went from 10,000 to 8,000 with 2,000 cut.
Correct.
Good.
Okay, now on printing, you're making a recommendation to cut how much?
1,000.
Yeah, this is, the town report is the biggest part of this. I mean, we spent 5,000 in 2016, but 26 has been a common number, and we've reduced the number of town reports we print, so you probably could get away with 3,000 in printing.
Can you also produce that in an electronic version for people to read online?
We have been for several years. We have been for several years.
I was reading the hard copy, but I think if we can save on paper and ink, that would be great.
Well, to make the legal requirement that it be available at least 1 week before the voting meeting, we've sometimes done that by having it online.
Okay.
Dan, you have a question? Concerning 4550. All right, the reduction, reduced line item 4550 by 1,000 to $3,000, is that correct?
From 4,000 to 3,000.
That's correct. All those opposed say aye. Nobody opposed, so we move. Dan, you have a question?
014611, office supplies, $500 a year. Or that or anything here.
Yeah. Any other financial administration? Questions or corrections?
Just out of curiosity, in office supplies, do we expect to spend a little more there before the end of the year? I mean, 3,600.
No, not a lot.
Does it make sense to pull another 500 from there and put us at 4,500?
I mean, you could.
I'll go on with it.
Can you read me that line over again?
014611.
150-01-4611.
And you're proposing to bring it to what?
4,500.
I brought it up.
Okay.
All those opposed? Carries. Any other questions on Dan?
4150034310, assessing contracts. That's,
Thank you.
It looks heavy.
Next year, we have to do a recertification. Every 5 years, you do a recertification. So this one went up 10, and you'll find there's a $5,000 cut a little later for the other half, which will be of the assessment contract.
Anybody have any other further comments? Tracy?
For this section, Chairperson, or?
Financial administration.
Yeah, so, 013612, the admin postage is at 2,400. Reduction of $500 to $1,900 is what I was proposing.
Line item again, please.
014612.
Postage. How much? Sorry, how much did you say?
A $500 reduction
To 100?
to $1,900.
Okay, anybody opposed? Carries.
So I was just gonna say, my suggestion would be to maybe only go 400, that way it level funds it, right?
About 1,900, they're level funded based on expenditures for the past 2 years, 1702 and 1881. So 1,900.
We have 1,900.
I'll go 1,900.
Is anybody opposed to going to 1,900? 1,900 carries.
Well,
Those are the three or 500.
We spent 4,816, and we spent 3,900 in 15, and we spent 4,700 in 13. So just be aware, there have been many years when we've spent between 4,000 or in the vicinity of, 4,800, 4,700, and 3,900. I'm sorry.
Years of 490, so it sounds like we're doing a better job managing postage, is what I think.
We have to do that. Yes, he's on the wrong line.
Yeah, no,
Will there be money needed for mailing to the retail?
there won't be any mailing to the revale with that budget cut, but I hadn't budgeted for it either, so. The plan is that we wouldn't be sending notice out about the revale. So if I may, if I can read correctly, now that I've got my ruler across here, it was 4,713, it was 3,915, and it was 3,000 in 16. So, but
But
the 1,900.
was that budget for admin, tax?
No,
Just budget committee?
Just admin. Just admin.
We put some new items, that's always why I'm asking the question.
No, that was just admin. The last 2 years, we have done better on postage, so what you're cutting it to is based on the last 2 years' experience. But we do have a history of spending a lot more than that in the past. Just to be aware of. So, the number was 500 to 1,900.
Please,
Chairperson.
go ahead.
So you're going to 19, or you leaving it where it is?
I think
We went to 1,900, so we've already voted and said yes, it's for $1,900.
You made it 500, not 19.
it's a reduction of 500 to 19.
Yeah, I'm saying 219.
014580, reduction of 500 to 1,000, again, based on,
Oh, the mileage?
yeah.
I'm sorry, how much did you say?
A reduction from 1,500 to 1,000.
044580?
014580.
Sorry,
Let me just make sure, because
No, I got,
mileage, if you look at mileage, so far this year, we've spent $1,700. We've already spent $200 more than the initial budget this year.
The prior year, your expenditures were $600, what changed?
Training, I think. But mileage is up to 1,700, so cutting it doesn't make any sense when we've already overspent this year.
An $1,100 increase in camp explains.
I mean, I could look into the details, I don't have it off the top of my head, but that's why we increased the budget, is based on actuals. And you keep citing actuals, so I would think that we wouldn't want to cut it at this point based on actuals.
There's one opportunity to make this change.
Well, you could tell, you have to set it, you make changes. There's,
I think we need some research on it just to figure out what has changed so dramatically to go from 600 to 1,100.
Well, Oh, that's different.
Somebody put it on our slips that hadn't been put in before, but we'll look into it and get you an answer on that.
It's also the new hires will need more training.
Yeah, we have been doing a lot more training, and I know Lynn is getting certifications, we've got a new hire we're gonna be doing training on. So
Where's the training?
Concord usually. So, I mean, I'll look into it, but I'm saying that we have traditionally, and this year was significantly over even what we're asking for, and to cut it another 500 doesn't make sense at this point.
So your line item for conferences and training is also higher and
So let's take that out, please. So let's stay with the 4580 first. What do you want to do with it? We have to remember, when we make our presentation, all we're doing is making a presentation to the public to look at. And then they may ask us questions on what we're presenting to them. And then when they go to the deliberative sessions, then they can work to drop that line item down. Because we're doing, all supposed to be doing that all right now. And so then we make our I think we're doing that, and then we make our presentation go with it. So if you want to reduce a line item anywhere in this whole budget, now is the time to do it.
it's difficult without an answer, Chairperson, as to why.
I understand that, and if the answer can't be there, then we should just turn around and either not do it, or go ahead and do it. I would recommend we go ahead and do it, but I'm only one person, I have a four. Dan, you had a question?
I'm fairly certain it's training, but I can look at it.
Dan, you had a question? On line item 4580.
Well, I've been trying to put this puzzle together, throwing some things around. And I asked some questions of them, so we can't find the answer tonight. So, we accept no answer.
Well, I think we have to accept what our town administrator has told us, is that it's an inspector for training, and I respect John's knowledge base on this, so we leave it. I have another area there.
The discussion is to leave it where it's at. So any other further discussion on this line item? Seeing no move on, select the hard copy. Select person, forgive me, I will learn that by the end of this year, I hope so.
Line item 014571, just a $100 reduction to $200. It doesn't look like we used $300 of that.
Any further discussion on that line item?
Can you say,
Yes.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? To reduce it $100?
Aye.
Okay.
So would you reduce that to?
800.
200, so it's a $100 reduction to $200.
4571?
I'm looking at some different numbers.
014571,
Oh, zero, I beg your pardon, I was on
from 300 to 200, a $100 reduction in the line item. Just based on the prior registry.
Yeah, admin registry.
Financial administration is what we're on.
Yes, but it's also another number down below that, the same thing. That's all right. All right, so we're back to admin, administrative dues. We've been paying $420, $400. So, you want to reduce that by 200?
No. I had mentioned that line item on 014571 was what we had.
If I may,
It's 300.
we split the registry of
Sorry.
line between tax and financial administration. And if you're reducing admin by 100, you should increase tax by 100, because tax with the split has already gone over by $169 or 200. So in fairness, if you're cutting one because it hasn't been expended, you should increase the other, because the way we split it in the fall apparently wasn't a fair split as to what the registry of deed cost would be between the two, financial admin and tax collector. So if you look down at 415004, 4571, that one should go up from 900 to 1100.
So collectively, we had $55 in 2017. 2018, your year-to-date expenditures, 187, 1,089. Well, 15. And based on what you're saying from last year, you're $50 underfunded. If we did nothing with it.
But you've already expended $1,069 in tax.
Plus another 187 in the line item above that, that is an admin. For a total of 1256. We add the two line items together that you split, that's $1,200 you're underfunded from this year's expenditures.
Yes. 1256.
Which
And you add
is
up to
from
1200,
2017 when you spent just 55 on registry of deeds.
They started charging us.
Yeah, they started charging somewhere, I don't know when it was, but I don't know why that didn't appear, but now that we're correctly breaking it out, that the registry is charging us for copies, that's why I think that if you're gonna cut one line based on actual, you ought to increase the other line based on actual, because we're over by $1,069 already in tax.
Well, between the two of them, from what you're describing, you've underfunded these lines by $56.
Yes.
So you would like to not make any change to them, and you'd still like to underfund them by $56?
No, I'd like to increase the tax registry deed, to increase that by 150, then we would have it funded correctly.
So what you're suggesting is we reduce the admin registry deed by 100 and increase the tax registry deed by 150.
Yes. So that you're not underfunded, based on action.
So we're only at 50.
Right. You took 100 away, you're adding 150 back, so you're now getting it funded to the 1250, which reflects roughly year to date.
So that section is elsewhere.
So we have 0571, we have 04571. We asked that we reduce the 01 by 100, and we add 150 to the 04. Is anybody different from what I just said? Or that there? Makes everything. Would you like to vote on that?
If we increase, I'm just a comment, if we increase by 100, it shorts us $25 in that line total expense.
Well, we haven't got to go to December, but yeah.
Okay. Are we anticipating a bill for December?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to say 150?
The increase by 150, I'm fine, I'm okay with that.
Okay, is anybody opposed to that? Thank you very much, that was painful. Do we have anything else in financial administration anybody would like to discuss?
I have two questions.
Please, go ahead.
One of them, does 4111 and 4112 change based on new hires?
4111 and 4111 and 4112 changed for two reasons. One was new hires, and one was that you combined two positions into the deputy tax collector position, so all of the deputy tax shows up in the 04 4111 instead of the 01 4111. So that's some of what was in the 01 4111 ended up in the 04 4111, and some of it's related to the new hire.
The 04 4111 shows a budgeted amount of zero.
Say, which one, the 01?
I think he's speaking of 4112.
Okay. So is that what you're saying, is that's where the salary is now showing up?
Just a minute.
Because
There should be no 41, I'm sorry, there should be no, the part-time 4112 that number should be in 4111, because it's now a full-time position instead of a part-time position. So those lines should move to correct it. All of those going across, well, I shouldn't say, most of those going across should move, in the first four columns should move up one column, 4111, you're correct.
Okay. And then tied to that, I don't know where we're bringing someone in, so when I look at that, does it create a reduction in that line? Does it create any reduction potentially on the benefits line? And then also, how does that impact earned time buyout at all?
A new hire reduces the potential for earned time buyout in the first year because they really don't qualify for much buyout in the first year. The salary is lower for the new hire compared to the older hire. I don't want to publicly discuss what happens with health insurance between one employee who left and one who's coming in.
But, so should we be reducing the earned time buyout, and should we be adjusting the salary line? And
The salary line is
and
going to
potentially,
I'm sorry, yes, on the earned time buyout, no on the salary line.
and potentially the benefits line.
The benefit line was adjusted based upon what the health plan got or who left and who came.
Okay, that's what I was trying to confirm, is that we did take that into consideration and we did adjust those appropriately.
Yes.
Based on
the new hire and the one who left. Yeah, so that did happen in here. So I've got a slightly different answer when we get to the police department because of something else, but that's what happened here.
So is our understanding, the impact to line 044154 is that 2,800 should be reduced?
Well, there's one employee who will not be able to use it, so yes, I would think you could take 800 out of there. No, not in the, where is it?
4154?
4154 could be reduced, yes.
The bio?
Yes.
What are you proposing that gets reduced to?
Well, it's hard to predict, but I would think you could take at least 1,000 out of it.
I'll go along with this suggestion.
Any further discussion on line item 014154? So we're going to reduce that by $1,000. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, takes care. We have another item for financial administration. I'll ask again, do we have another item for financial administration?
044154. Two prior years expenditures for earned time buyout were just $962 and $0. And that's being proposed at 2,800.
Oh, you mean in 04, 154?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, this is,
Rebecca
uh,
We want to reduce that by 800?
Yeah, I would suggest we reduce it by 1,800 down to 1,000.
it's one of those things you don't know what they're going to
Right, you don't know what
here,
someone's
but
going to use, but.
that's where incident funds is traditionally come in. If you wanted to take the 1,800, just understand you might have to use some there. So 1,800 to 1,000.
Is that the board's willing to go along with that?
That's my recommendation.
I'll second that.
And a second.
Third.
I hate to go.
I would say that, I'm opposed to going $1,800, I really am. I think we should go 1,500 or 1,000, either way, but I think.
No, I had suggested 1,000, a reduction of 1,800.
Reduction to 1,800?
Reduction of $1,800 to just $1,000.
Right, so it'd be a lot.
I was looking at the prior 2 years' expenditures, and it seems overinflated to...
it looks like
I
it's
agree to some degree, but I would also recommend leaving a little bit in there because people do have the right to use that. And, my suggestion would be to 1,800. They do have the right to use their.
Reduce it by 1,300 to an amount.
Yeah.
of-
I would do it, I would do 1,500. Anybody else have any further discussion on that? Reducing that line item to $1,500.
So negative 13 was the percentage.
Let's not confuse it, Mr. Ayers. We're going to reduce that line item to $1,500.
Right, so we're taking out.
Is anybody opposed to doing that? Same numbers, we're going to make it so.
If I think the wisdom of that, if you look back in 2014 and, 2014, it was 1,900 expended, in 2015, 2,000 expended, so there has been some years that it's been over.
But we have taken some positions and combined them so there'd be less money coming out of that.
And 10 years of experience with those former employees have an impact as opposed to current years of experience.
No, yeah, I'm okay with 1,300 to 1,500.
I'll ask again, anything else for financial administration?
No, sir.
So you know, we'll move on. Two, property assessment. Any questions on property assessment? Seeing none, I'll go on to legal. So any questions on legal? Dan?
I was just wishing to cut, legal, we did that, didn't we? Is it 58 or 50?
Is it 58, Con?
I think we should go down to 50. Cut it $8,000.
Oh, I disagree with you, because that 8,000 was put in for legal expense, we already have that situated to go to.
And if I may add, assuming you approve the engagement letter for bond counsel, was $5,000 to $6,000 will need for bond counsel for the town hall.
Knowing what we have spent this year and kind of where we've been, I don't feel uncomfortable level funding at 50 from the prior
Neither do
year.
I.
We have in 14, we spent $113,000 out of this line, and in 15, we spent $63,000, 16, 44,000. So, there's some history on here of it going significantly higher depending upon what you end up with. So, and you've got two bonds now that's going to be $14,000 to $16,000 just for the bonds. So just understand that there is, there are those expenditures out of legal, so you've got less than you think you have.
What's your annual contract cost?
No annual contract, it's a per hour basis.
Okay, so what was just described amounts to about $22,000. You said 14 and 8.
No, the eight and the 5, the 8 and the 6 would make 14,000 for the two bond councils. So you're at about 14,000. And then if you look at what we've expended year to date, which is 35, it puts you over 50 right there.
Like $559.
49,550.
Yeah, it puts you in that, well, we've got bills today for, I know we've got bills.
We also have that abatement case too.
Yeah, we've got a court case, but we've got a number of those. But, so there's 35, we know we've got an additional 15, so we know we got 50 right there without assuming that we don't have to spend a lot on that abatement case, which they took to court rather than the land and tax case.
So that could add up. I would suggest we just leave this at 58,000.
I'll live with it.
Excuse me, let me finish talking, please. I don't want to interrupt you. I ask that we leave this
I
at
think it's
50.
motion though.
It doesn't need a motion here.
I brought it up, that's what I'm trying to say. I withdraw our information provided on that. Thank you.
At $58,000, that was my recommendation, consider leaving it there because of the legal cases we have coming up. Any other further discussion on that? Dan, any other further discussion, please?
That's why I rescinded it and took it back. I don't know if the provided, so you have to make that speech.
Does anybody else have anything to go? Seeing none, we'll go to the next item, personnel administration. Anybody have any discussion on that?
I wanted to just read the medical surveillance program.
Or no?
That's FSA, isn't it? No.
0142.
Background checks,
Oh, background
drug
checks,
screening.
health screening, CDL testing for all for people.
So could we reduce that to 1,800, reduction of $200, line item 014290?
That's something to consider.
We spent over 2,015 on it, but, yeah, probably with the incident fund, this is cost-contained. If you cut here, you may need to go there, but you could reduce it some, yes.
I was more
We have a discussion for $200. Anybody opposed? I do. All those in favor say aye. Okay. Any other questions on the personnel administration? Seeing none, we'll go to land use. Anybody have any comments on land use?
Line item 014439, reduction of $125 to $375.
Which line is that again, Mr. Chairman?
Land use force.
4439.
Reduction of $125 to $375. Based on
Any
28.
further discussion? No further discussion on that. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions on land use?
I do.
What is it, please?
014540. Yeah, that seems kind of heavy.
If we have Marshall speak to it, please.
So as a Will's report was published, we were at 4,303. Not only does this include a sort of educational guesstimate on the applications that come before us, that we actually receive $75 per notice in the paper, so that's kind of a wash. We have to anticipate what may come through. This will also does not include the applications that will be posted this week. And I believe we're still waiting a bill from Foster, and also the notice for any zoning amendments that they should come forward. So, I mean, we actually spent more than we did in 2017, and I would say advertisement-wise, this has been a fairly slow year, so I went for January that Barbara is going to post, will be posted shortly. We had 3 applications.
Would you, select person had a couple, would you think about going over 1,000?
If it may, it looks to me like we're already over 500.
Well, we're going to be over 4,500. And like I said, it's anticipation, and a good portion of this is actually recouped and put into the general fund, so it's not
That's revenue.
as revenue.
Would it make sense rather than going at 1,000 to go 500?
I wouldn't go any more than 500 because she's still got a fair amount, it depends upon what you come up with, because this has been a real light year for zoning amendments too. But, these ads are getting very expensive in the paper.
To me, we have to advertise legally no matter what you put there for a number, so, we could reduce it, but,
One way or another.
yeah, I mean, we have to do it, so, if you reduced it by 500, that's okay. The same token, well, like, I saw one that we could possibly go down in based on that.
We are on line item 45, same rules apply to everything.
I'll keep
Thank you. Dan?
I think some good numbers that look heavy to me, that information. Based on the information, I'll change it 500, 1,000 or 500.
We're at 500 or, go on 4540. Anybody opposed? Okay. Any other discussion for land use? Dan? You have another thing?
No,
I would actually like to listen to what Marcia has to
That's why we essentially build it so we could move this along.
I know, but she was offering reducing another line, so why would I not listen to
I
what
understand
Marcia
that.
is offering?
I didn't realize she was off. Marcia, go ahead.
When I was looking at this again, because obviously my part-time hourly wages is the minute taker for the Conservation Commission, and as I look at what's expended year-to-date this year, although she did have a time card for this past week, and what was expended before, I mean, I would be comfortable reducing the 1825 down to 1,200, so taking $625 away from that.
As a 4112?
I would make it.
411, 481.
You said to go down to,
I was get to $1,200, does that make sense?
my suggestion would be to go to 15 and take 325 out of this. Not cut you quite to the bone.
Okay, yeah.
thank you.
That's going to be reduced to what, Andy?
It's going to be out of 25 to 1,500.
Any objection? No objection, so we're 1,500. Any further land use? Dan? Go ahead.
Yes, to clarify that, I'm gonna take 325 off of 1,500.
Yes.
Thank you.
Selectperson Hancock.
014570, a reduction of $200 to $1,000 based on the prior year's expenditures.
Land use and dues fees.
Any questions on that? Yes, thank you very much.
I recently submitted a proposed renewal for $160. So, it'll be right in line with the $1,200.
I'm okay, I'm comfortable with the 1,200, that's...
Selectman Hancock, are you comfortable with that?
We're clearly participating in more things.
A lot of it.
I think that,
Yes, we are.
I think that I have to be comfortable with that.
Any other items for land use?
014571, a reduction of $300 to $700. I'm sorry, 4571. We expended $669 and $219.
That had no answers to it.
Sure, again, this is one of the lines where applicants actually pay us to record plan sets, so a lot of it's dependent on how many applications that need to be, the plans that need to be recorded for registry of deeds. On the first sheet alone, we do charge for $50, I believe, for the first sheet. And also for any printing that occurs off that. We have not received our bill yet for the most recent transactions. And I did do some recording at the registry, so again, I think this one we're cutting pretty close based on the fact that it's not a hard number that we can depend on.
And the other thing is, like, the prior line, this is a reimbursed line, so the more we spend, we get it in as a revenue, so it really doesn't save anything off the bottom line of the budget as far as what you have to raise for taxes.
Dan?
I've never really seen a spreadsheet of what we take in. John Hawkins, the building, he did like a spreadsheet, but I don't, like on this, if I ever had that information, I could've looked at things in a different view.
Well, I gave you a revenue sheet. It was all listed together in one category. There's planning board revenue, land use revenue. It wasn't broken out, but it was there on that revenue sheet.
Yeah, and even like, when I went to the, ABC, I had to follow some things and stuff, and then,
Well, you have the sheet, what does it say on the sheet there?
So, as I'm understanding what you're saying, John, this is a dollar-for-dollar reimbursable item.
Not quite good.
Not quite, because in addition, if we do deed research, even if we print something from the registry on our own computer, they charge us $1 a page. So
Some things.
some things that aren't reimbursed, but the recording of plans, the recording of deeds, we do collect money for those, and the plan sets in particular are the most expensive to record.
And
On our own computer, on our own paper, we...
Relying and trying to survive the
God
yes.
bless them.
I don't think they make us do it, because nobody's willing to charge it under a right to know violation on their part, but I think the county is.
Cheryl did fight it.
Cheryl tried to fight it. Okay,
Moving on, do we have any other discussion on 014571?
yes, can I answer Dan's question?
Go ahead.
The revenue sheet I gave you on November 26th shows that there's $5,455 that came in for planning board income. $5,145.50 so far that's come in for planning board to reimburse these kinds of things. Not just this one, but the other ones as well.
Well, my own fault, if I put around all these pages, that means right out there, I use a ruler.
Yeah, the older I get, the more I need that ruler. Now I'm going to need a magnifying glass before long. They make them all.
So what did we end up doing with the registry of deeds?
Level funding in the way that it is.
So that's what we're gonna do. Well, any other questions for land use?
015480, reduction of $400 to $600.
Mileage and expense?
Correct.
How much?
Which one?
We got $400 to $600.
We spent 506 and 520 in the past 2 years.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor of reducing it by $500, signify by saying aye.
Madam Chair.
I said 400, sorry, thank you for correction.
Down to
Aye.
So that's gonna go to 600. All those in favor, please, all right, and all those opposed? Seeing none, it passes. Thank you. Any other comments for land use?
014611, a reduction of $100 to $700.
I would speak against that, and if we've got that new printer with the expensive paper that we get money back for, it will show up as revenue, but we're gonna have some additional office supplies as we go forward because of that.
That looks closer than that. 17, 19.
Satisfied with that, Tracy?
I am.
Okay. We have any other comments for land use? I'll ask one at a time. Do we have any other comments for land use? Seeing none, we'll move on. The next item on our budget is cemeteries. Do we have any questions on cemeteries?
So you skipped government.
Sorry. Government buildings is the next one. Do we have any comments for government buildings? Dan?
014431, 100 grand. What is that?
It's the air handlers.
That was $90,000 for the new units on top of the fire and police station for replacing the air handlers. We have two quotes, one at $89,000 and change and one at $116,000. We believe we put out the bid, we'll be able to get it in. The other $10,000 was for standard building maintenance that we do on a regular basis. We spent, we spend $10,000 to $15,000 every year on that stuff for maintenance of buildings.
All right, now where's the money gonna come for the renovations to the police station?
Assuming the price comes in as expected, it will come out of a capital reserve.
How much is that? Is in that?
Something in the 30,000s. Let me look it up for you. You've got the number. In fact, I handed it out.
All right,
Do we have enough
all right.
money allocated between government buildings and that capital reserve to cover?
We don't know.
Okay. Do we think we have enough money to cover the renovation
I
plus?
think we do, but we're not sure.
That's one.
If we didn't think we did, we would have asked for more money. That is, because we...
My understanding, the quote came through somewhere around 81 or 82,000.
Right, but we believe that acting as our own general and putting in the individual pieces out for bid is going to work out better. That's what we've done on several successful projects in the past with Paul Sanders. And the school will allow him to work as the general on that project. He's overseen a number of other projects for the town successfully. Some of our unsuccessful projects he didn't oversee, which is, we're sorry we didn't do them.
So Paul will be overseeing that.
And you anticipate that would reduce the cost from the 80+ thousand down to what?
Well, I think the 80,000 was high, as I said before, is because there were so many unknowns. We didn't know whether there'd be a fire protection system needed, and the fire protection engineer hadn't looked at it, it wasn't
But that
designed.
figure didn't quote a fire suppression system.
No, but it was unclear as to what, it said it had to comply with the code, and it wasn't in there. You're right, I think that was part of the problem.
So as I'm understanding it, there's $30,000. There's the line item for the 014431 that has potentially 10,000 above and beyond what you need for the air handlers. That's 40. You
Yes.
propose that you'll be able to accomplish what the police station needs for $40,000?
I don't think so.
I do, but I'm not a builder, and it would have to go out to bid. I was hoping to have it out to bid, but it's really been slowed down in the process of getting it. I was hoping we'd have the bids before we went to deliberative session, but maybe somebody who's in the building, maybe John or somebody could speak to it and come up with a better number.
Just while we're talking about what the air handlers, what, can you repeat again what the air handlers are?
They're air conditioning and heating units on the roof that,
On which building?
public safety.
They're on the side of the building.
They're 15 years old.
Don't have any.
Well,
It's in the attic. Some of it in the attic, that's it.
That's reserved.
It's my understanding from what we were quoted to accomplish that work, we would need to increase this line item of 014431 to $140,000. If you have 30,000, you have 10,000 above and beyond the air handlers.
right, we got a second quote, we got a new quote in, handed out, was at 90,000. With the 10,000, makes it 100,000 for the air handlers. There were two quotes for the air handlers. The first one
Okay, so I'm-
went way over.
Okay, so I'm understanding that, I still don't see where we have funded the changes up to $81,000 for the police station.
Oh, we have not.
Okay, but we talked about this being a priority for safety, it's done,
Yes.
yet we're not building it into the budget.
No, there's 31,000 in a capital reserve. We did not build it into the budget. It maybe needs to be added to the budget. That's a valid question.
So we,
Dan?
As a contractor, and we're doing that, I feel comfortable with 50 grand, but you haven't proved you had 50 grand up to yet. So we need to go down to 50. That 50 is set aside, we run it over, but we need 50, at least 50 grand for addition.
So if you need 50 grand for the renovation of the police station, this line should be increased to a minimum of
but we've not
120,000.
gotten a quote for 50 grand.
But that's, we're
How
already
could we
close.
possibly underfund the
Oh, yeah,
project?
who's finished, please?
How could we underfund the project by $31,000 and assume that somehow we can get it done for $50,000? We're not contractors. I'm,
If I may, I think some of what John is talking about is there's a building cost for GC. He's assuming that by us using Paul, he's going to eat a portion of that GC cost out of it. And also, based on what he's anticipating for work needing to be done. Are you saying Paul figured the number would come in more based on work he's done, or is that just based on?
If we had, Bob or John Huckam speak to this, I'd appreciate it.
Bob's been working on it today, so.
He's been shuffled back to wood.
Thank you. I spoke with the architecture last week. We've got a final plan. It's very similar to the one that I had submitted on what has been called the napkin plan. And it was about $80,000, 81 or 82 is right there, was the only quote that we had received. In talking with Paul, he's gonna be able to reduce it by what he thinks, 10 to 15% off of that, and give a much better product. We don't have an exact number, because we don't have a good quote. But if you use that 80,000 as the number, and then subtract the general contracting fee off, which Paul has told me, about 10 to 15,000 we would save, because he's gonna GC it himself. That's about where we're at. We'd never get it done for much cheaper.
So you're saying we need to have 65,000
minus 15 is
No.
where we probably should be.
61 minus,
81.
We'd have to be 135 in that line to accommodate the additional money plus the reserve money.
141. You have 30,000.
Yeah.
He's saying you could reduce it to 71,000. You need 141,000 to government helping line.
One was the total?
You can do 136 to 141 and hope that he brings it down from that. Or you could reduce it,
Just fund it.
and just fund it so that it can get done.
No, I think we have to get it done, and we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't get it done.
So you want to increase this to 141?
Hold on. Just a minute, hold on there. We're still having conversation.
I'm perplexed why it isn't in the budget. So, yes, while I hate increasing that line by $41,000, it sounds like it has to be increased by $41,000 to effectively get the police department to the level of functionality and safety that's required.
Dan, do you have anything else you want to add to line item 4431?
Imagine one guy, I looked at the estimate he had, and so 50, 60 grand, this should be able to come in. We can run over, as long as we're in the ballpark having the money, we go over by a little bit, 10 grand. But we need to have some money there.
You don't want to go out in public though. You really don't want to go over, but let's give them an honest estimate.
Here's another option that you have, and I'm glad Connor just mentioned it to me. You could add 41,000 to the capital reserve.
Oh, so do it.
And use fund balance to add the 41, so we're not cutting the bottom line of the budget.
As long as it's funded. I don't understand why it's not in here.
Yeah, and that would just cover it, we covered the already accrued tax money, so warrant article.
Select person here.
I don't think that's a bad idea.
Yeah, actually, if you're gonna do that, you might wanna put 50 in, so that you're sure you've covered it, and it's money that
Sits there and if
sits
something.
there in case something else goes. I think that's a good idea.
So, what would you like to do?
Connor deserves. Yeah. Good job, Connor.
Big deputy town administrator. So say it again.
He put 50,000 towards the capital reserve for building repairs.
That's gonna come up later.
Yep.
So, do you want to do anything with this line item? Maybe I should ask that question. Dan,
Leave it the same. But we are addressing it in a minute.
I understand this. Does anybody have any other comments they want to make?
About this entire section.
No, about this, no, about 4431 right now. Dan, you have a comment on 4431, please give it to me.
No,
Okay, that's,
I already have a question.
okay. Any other questions on that? General government?
014112, is that Paul's?
Excuse me.
Thank you, Chairperson. 014624. I was under the impression at some point that 25,000 had been increased to 28,000. And I have no idea why I think that. But there was a discussion that ensued 1 or 2 meetings ago about the cost of.
He knows what it's going to
Was it
be.
28,000?
No,
Okay.
I started to want to increase it, and then it was brought to my attention, I think by Lynn, that we had gotten a great quote on the price of fuel and diesel.
Okay.
Because of that, we're anticipating we can make do with that
Okay.
line.
And then 014651, the operating supplies. 2 years of expenditures would indicate that that line needs to be funded at $1,900, a reduction of $1,100.
Any further comments on 4651, sorry? Seeing none, do we accept the reduction as mentioned?
Okay, so it's down to 29?
Down to 2,900.
We were saying reduce 4651 at 4,000 to
2,900.
that would be a difference of 11. Oh, I wrote 1,900, I'm like, that doesn't add up. Thank you.
Dan, do you have a question on 4651?
No. All right. You mean, okay, sorry. You're correct.
Change. Next week. Now round we go to, all those in favor of making a change from $1,100 to 39?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We'll that there. Next item, cover those, Dan.
For informational purposes, 0141112, part-time wages. Who was that?
Custodians.
Anything else? Chuck, there?
No, that was information.
Does anybody else have anything else to cover those?
I had a question on 4626, government building vehicles. Now, 2017, we were at 67,000. 2018, we were at 73. This year, we're budgeting 75. What drove the increase there
Winter maintenance.
of our vehicles?
Winter fuel for plowing. So, for example, we spent $113,000 in 2014.
Right.
It's driven mainly by how much gets plowed. That's a big number on that.
Okay.
Any other? Can you get your own there? You have something else?
No, that was it.
Dan?
Dry snow and wet snow, you burn twice as much fuel while wet snow.
So we burned, actually, 2 years in a row, we spent 116 one year and 113 the next. But since then, we've been down in the 70 range, so that's why it's budgeted at 75.
Can you just order dry snow going forward?
I'm going out for sunshine.
We also have that the capital reserve.
We have a $200,000 fund that can be used.
Right. So if we overexpend, it's not a huge deal because we planned for it in the capital reserve.
It's a big incident fund that's allowed to have.
So if that's the case, do we level fund or do we potentially looking, putting it at like 70,000?
Well,
what's the difference of 17 and 8?
Well, I think we're not done spending, so this year we're going to be over 80 probably already, so I think 75 is a reasonable.
Any further comments or reductions for general government? Seeing none, I'll move on. Now we can do this.
Sorry, Chairperson. I had a question written down here. 15,000 for the fire alarms that we were proposing at the storage garage. Is that factored into this?
No.
Okay.
We agreed to take that out of
This year, but if it's not spent this year, it has to be budgeted for next year, doesn't it?
Yes.
So will we accomplish it by the end of this fiscal year?
I didn't think you told us to proceed, I thought it was on hold, because I thought there was...
We said we wanted to take it out of this year's money, that's where we left it. Take it out of this year's money.
buildings. Okay.
I'm already doing it.
We got the money in, we already found the money.
Could you make a motion to the fire alarms?
Oh, I just, can we review the last meeting?
I can tell you.
What did we say?
It wasn't a motion, so...
It was not a motion.
So the recommendation of the ABC, the four general recommendations of the ABC were voted on by the select board, just that last one's vote.
Okay, is this a recommendation by ABC?
It was,
Okay.
of the general.
So we want to make a motion I'll make a motion to expend the 15, well, I don't want to hamstring myself by saying 15. I'll make a motion to expend the necessary funds up to a limit of $20,000 to accomplish the fire suppression, or fire alarms for the two highway buildings at the recommended amount of $50,000.
Do I have a second?
Are they gonna be,
Do I have a second?
Yes, Chairperson, you have a second.
I have a second. Further discussion, please. Dan Air.
are they gonna be tied into the SCADA system so they can transmit it out, on the internet or something? Or is it just an alarm system on site?
Oh, no, we need to have it connected to dispatch.
Tied to dispatch alarms.
Sorry.
But I just be aware, we're going to see if we can do it in this short a time period, because as it was noted, we do need to do it in the next 2 weeks. If we can't get it done, we'll know by the time of the public hearing, and we can build it into the budget.
Very good. Is there the ability to carry that sort of that isn't anticipated?
Only if we have a binding contract.
Well, we can probably accomplish that in 2 weeks.
So that's what I'm saying, if we can't get a binding, the problem is you need to get quotes.
Right.
And getting 3 food to 4 over the holidays could be, actually, it's supposed to be sealed bid. So, unless you're willing to go with quotes, which I think would make sense to go all quotes.
There's two buildings. So,
We don't, our policy specifically says that you've got to consider the two together as it were, if you're doing them both. If you're willing for us to go with quotes, we will go with quotes and see if we can get a contract arranged.
I don't have an issue with it. My thought on it is if the quotes are coming in at under 15, that aligns with our contract policy. Otherwise, if our policy is we have to do sealed bid, I feel
I
like
think it's kind of,
oh yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
If you want to change that, I'll ask for withdrawal of the second, and then we can do it with quotes. If the withdrawal of the second for quotes doesn't want to withdraw, then you can't do it.
let us see what we can do, and do everything we can to get the funding. Now, the other issue is, if we can, as Connor just mentioned, you could just put that much more into the repair capital reserve and go that way, with fund balance paying for it.
Right. So put that,
So I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion needed on this motion?
I'm just saying, this is really no different than what we'd be doing anyway this
Correct.
year by spending it, because the money would be unexpended funds
Go into
anyway,
fund
that would
balance.
just go to fund balance to expenditure.
It's just one more step.
Any further discussion? Take a vote.
That by
That motion carries. Is there any further discussion for general government buildings?
no.
Thank you. So then we'll go to cemeteries. Anybody have any comments on cemeteries?
no home recipes.
And seeing none, we'll move to insurance.
That's pretty sure.
Insurance, any comments on insurance?
That's basically, we wait for a quote.
Sorry, it's just on the fire alarm system, it will be a fire and a CO2 detection, carbon monoxide detection system, I'm assuming.
I would assume we want that somehow connected, yes.
Right, since it is in a, like, garage where vehicles are parked.
Yep, that makes sense. We'll see what we can do on that.
Thank you.
Any questions on insurance?
That's,
We went out to bid, this is
Right.
with a company that the risk pool that covers municipalities.
that's right, it doesn't even have range anyway.
And it's a reduction, I'm not gonna argue reduction.
The only way it will increase is if we build a new building, then the rate will go up because it's based somewhat upon total exposure.
Moving forward, we have advertising, the regional associations. Any comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the police department.
May I make a request for a bio break at this point, because I feel like we're starting to get into the longer items, and we're an hour almost.
Anybody object? Does anybody object to doing it? Seeing none, we'll have to take a 10-minute recess.
I don't even at 5 already, I would think.
10 people get back. We'll have 5 minutes.
Lynn, can you shut off the camera?
You're like 5 feet.